Yeah, we'll jump in a second because we'll be talking about Wind Down and Blueburn, which is fantastic. And they're so, I mean, they're fabulous kind of duo for us. But hopefully, we'll be talking about it in a way that is new and kind of incorporates East Asian medicine in a very cool way. So, oh, great, we had another person join us. Awesome. I was hoping for that to happen. So, hi. But yeah, I guess since we've already kind of gone a few minutes in, I'll get started and maybe we'll catch some more people as they drop in. But yeah, let me get this going. All right. Well, my name is Matt, Dr. Matt. I'm a doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine, and I'm nationally board certified in both. And I've been practicing, gosh, 15 years now. And before that, I was involved in microbiology and chemistry and physics and that sort of thing. And so I have the joy of being able to take some of those tools that I've learned and picked up in the past and bringing them here to apothecary in both the way we employ, but also really discuss and design the formulas that we use. And so I love all the questions and all the different ways we come at this. So, like I said, please, whatever comes to mind, don't be a hesitate or don't hesitate to ask. So, yeah, what's really interesting about East Asian medicine, especially the way it's practiced now, is that it's really easy to bring it up into like a modern sensibility because it's based on just literally thousands of years of observation and practice and experimentation. And what was great is, especially when we talk about like the Chinese tradition or like the Japanese tradition of Kampo, people wrote things down like crazy. And so we've got this amazing record to learn and build from. And so that's one of the things that we really are trying to put together here as Apothecary is bringing all of that wisdom, that tradition, that knowledge that's come from the past as it's moved into the present and tie it with things of more of a scientific nature and mindset. As an example, like with our new product Power Trip, or the way that we put together things like Blue Burn or Wind Down or Take the Edge Off to kind of mix in both of those because there's really good stuff on both sides of the equation. And so when we're talking about Blue Burn and Wind Down, really people gravitate towards these because they really are so good at helping to support things like with Blueburn metabolism and balance and a healthy response to our overall endocrine systems throughout the day, or then helping us wind down, like literally at the end of the day and find some peace and rest. And so we really look at it a little differently where we're not trying to force or push anything. It's all about balance in the way that we approach it. And balance comes in a number of different ways, but it's in an Eastern kind of sensibility, something that's always in motion. It's not a steady state. It's going to be a combination of ups and downs and lefts and right. And so we're trying to really support the beginning of your day and how you move through the day in order to help you also find rest and peace at night more easily. And so that's where this combination comes in because what we need at the beginning of our day and throughout our day is quite different from what we need at the end of our day and at night. And that's no huge like unveiling of wisdom. It's just you can feel the difference in terms of what you need to start and end your day. And so that's where this combination comes in, is to really take advantage of both of those transitions and smooth those as we go through the day. So jumping into a little bit more of actually what's going on as we start our day, we have to talk about cortisol. Cortisol gets sort of a bad rap because we talk a lot about what happens when it's not working the way we would like it to, but it is an essential hormone that our body uses to wake us up in the morning. And so we can see this trend, as you can kind of see here, that's the general trend, where as we start moving from like into the early morning hours, if we're sleeping a normal schedule, we'll see our cortisol levels naturally rise. And what that does is it literally helps kind of shut off the sleep response and wake us up. So typically, we would expect to see our highest cortisol levels in the morning, and that's normal and appropriate and anticipated. As we move through the day, what we'd want to see is those levels starting to just kind of decline. And on this little map here, you can see like it starts to really decline as we move into the evening hours. And what's not shown on this particular graph, but what is also occurring is as our cortisol really reaches that like that bottom end in the evening, our melatonin starts to actually pick up. It's the other side to this coin. And so we're focusing on cortisol at the moment because that's the one that gets a lot of attention. But I kind of want to reframe the way we look at cortisol because again, it gets a bad rap, but it's not about suppressing or getting rid of cortisol. It's about giving us a balanced response to our cortisol and helping us find our ground as we move forward through our day. And so what we normally think of when we're talking about cortisol not really serving us the way that we would want it to is instead of seeing this nice like wave pattern throughout our day, we kind of see like a flat line because or I mean or you could see spikes in there as well depending on how stressful your day is because cortisol is also a response to stress. So when we are navigating a lot of stressors in our life throughout the day, whether it's just traffic or it's just work or whatever, that can kind of throw a monkey wrench in this idea of balance. So you might see something like this where your cortisol just stays elevated. You might see ups and downs that are kind of not along this trend, but it's just basically not the balance that we're looking for, where it's following this rhythm. Because especially from a Chinese medical perspective, kind of my background, everything's built in cycles. Everything's based on a rhythm. And there's always like a left and a right, an up and a down, that sort of thing, in order to kind of get that seesaw to even out throughout the day. Like nothing's ever still per se. It's just always trying to we kind of want like the ups and the downs to even out. So when we see something like this, we know that there's something we need to help with. There's something we need to support, and that's the relationship that we need to change. And this is where we might look at this a little differently, and hopefully this gives you a new perspective of where we're going with this. Um, I brought in the idea of melatonin. So melatonin is actually spiking at the end of this with this new slide here. You can see I put cortisol at the bottom, and you'll see where I'm going here in just 1 second. We've got cortisol is highest at the awake time, and melatonin should be highest right around sleep time. And so you're seeing like these opposite ends of the spectrum. If we were to actually include the melatonin graph, we could just literally take this cortisol graph and flip it, and we'd see melatonin up where cortisol is down, and cortisol is up where melatonin is down. So it's pretty straightforward. But how this all applies is to this concept of yin and yang that is actually core in Chinese medicine and Kampo. We've all seen the symbols and whatnot, but there's so much meaning behind it, and it's the relationships that it helps illustrate that is so helpful. Understanding this at both an East Asian but also a biomedical level. And so as we move forward here, you can see where I was kind of going with this. Um, so when we talk about yin and yang, it's this dynamic, moving sense of balance, this dynamic equilibrium. Nothing is stationary because there's always some sort of transition going on. Something is building, something is receding, that sort of thing. And so to get these ideas kind of, the way we look at this to kind of build these ideas, when you hear the word yang, these are going to be things that are active and expansive and moving, like our daytime activities. Yin are going to be like the soothing, quiet, restorative ideas. So think nighttime. And so as we kind of put this into our model, cortisol is boosting that yang activity, that active activity. Melatonin boosts that restorative quiet time at night, and they require each other. So if you don't have a great night's rest, then it's hard to have that good steady build of energy. And if you don't have that great energy throughout the day, then it's hard to kind of find rest at the end of the day, right? Yeah, totally makes some sense. And that's why the relationship is what's so interesting about this. So we can kind of look at this balance because we need our melatonin, we need our cortisol, but we need them to kind of be working with each other throughout the day to get the best result for our overall well-being. And so here's another way of kind of thinking about it too, and just kind of really settling on this idea of the melatonin and where it fits in the yin and yang and the cortisol. Um, One piece to add to this, I know that there's a lot um, to sleep and the awake cycle, so I know this is a simplification. But these patterns of seeing like a yin and a yang, a cortisol and a melatonin, or an awake or a sleep, that shows up in other ways in the body. There's like an infinite number of layers there. And so as you zoom out, you can see that yin and yang pattern. And as you zoom in as well, even down to the concept of an atom, where electrons that kind of swirl around and kind of exist on the outside of the atom are very yang, but the protons that are in the center are very yin because they sit there and they're kind of quiet. So, very cool how we can apply this in multiple different layers, but it's all about rhythms. It's all about kind of the flow of the day and trying to let one support the other to keep that cycle moving forward. So, where does wind down and blue burn fit into this? Yeah, this kind of shows it a little bit more in depth, right? Like, because the true lessons here are all about balance. Wind down is your relaxation support, and blue burns your metabolic support. And so we can fuel that yang and fuel that yin and keep that wheel like moving forward as we move forward in our day. And that's where this blue burn and wind down, that's why we couple them together. Because, like I said earlier, what you need to start your day is quite a bit different than what you need to end your day. And that's good. That's the way it should be. And so we have tools for both, to support both ends of that equation. So with Blueburn, we're really looking at trying to help with this process of moving through your day, supporting this healthy relationship to cortisol and whatnot. And so it's going to be, we're working on things like stress support, metabolic support, and trying to help offer a grounded place to move forward in your day. Sometimes things like caffeine or other things can definitely get you going, but it doesn't always feel like that energy is rooted in anything. And so we're trying to really build from the ground up and nourish you through your day. That's kind of the one of the key differences that you might see with the Chinese medical or Kampo approach. And so Blueburn fits in that nicely. And how it can do that is through the formulation that we have in there. So there's a whole bunch of different ways you can kind of tease this out. And I picked just some of like the heroes in the formula because you could really, I mean, we can really break this into lots of different cool pieces in terms of how Blueburn works. But everything is in here for a reason. Let's put it that way. So ashwagandha is definitely going to be one of the heroes in the mix. And it is well known now as a great adaptogen. You have maca, which is getting well known also for providing an adaptogenic grounded source of energy. And ashwagandha helps with that stress response. But then things like gymnema leaf, which is really, really interesting because it tends to support a healthy relationships to our cravings when it comes to food. Because one of the responses that we see oftentimes when we're really stressed is it's not uncommon to see like cravings for different foods to kind of help ease that. And one of the reasons why is because in the East Asian tradition, there's emotions that are associated with every organ system. And the emotion that's most associated with kind of the core digestion, like the pancreas and stomach, is worry. So as we worry, we tend to start reaching for things, especially like sweets, to try and soothe and kind of ease the burden we feel in those areas. And so by helping to restore a healthy relationship, um, we can support your ability to move through your day in that metabolic sense. But we also have things like Oregon grapefruit, which is a natural source of berberine in its roots. And then we have things like lemon peel, ginger to also kind of get that rooted, active, soothing digestion that you've come to expect from blueberry. And so that's one of the ways that this kind of all builds together. But as we break out and start looking at some of the core ingredients, there really is some very cool science behind these ingredients. For instance, ashwagandha. One of the things you'll hear about is with phenolides. So these are the actual compounds that are credited with giving ashwagandha its amazing properties. Maca, you have these compounds that are often named for the plant that it comes from. So macamides or macamides. And then you have gymnema leaf, which has gymnemic acids. And so if you want to kind of drill down into this, there really are scientifically characterized active compounds in these herbs. So as we kind of put them together, we're looking certainly at the Eastern sense of these, but also at the scientific approach. Because when we build these formulas, we really are looking at the science first and foremost of what they do, and then tying it into the rest of the picture from an East Asian medical perspective. But just know that there's both. There's always both. That's just how myself and our director of all things innovation and R&D and creative amazing stuff, Shelby, that's how we really put this into action, especially with not only the tools that we built in the past, but what's coming up. So the other part of this equation is wind down. And this one is also, it's very cool how this all works together. Um, but we're trying to, of course, support relaxation and calm and kind of support that natural like inclination to find a quiet place at the end of your day, that soothing, restorative place, so you can start the next day refreshed. And wind down's great at kind of opening the door for that. So to kind of break down some of the really good ingredients that we have in here, one of the things we really leaned into is L-theanine, and this is from green tea. It's an amazing amino acid that interacts with the parts of our nervous system that really can signal that it's okay to kind of chill out. And because we have, you might have heard this, and a lot of people have, like we kind of have two divisions, a yin and a yang, to our nervous system. We have like the fight or flight, which is definitely more yang, and then we have that rest, digest, and heal, which is definitely more yin. And so this will be kind of supporting that rest, digest, and heal. Um, California poppy is another one that's awesome. It's different than, because we actually get a couple of questions about this. California poppy is a poppy, but it's not the poppy that people think of when they are thinking about like opium poppies. It's a little different vibe, actually a lot different vibe. It's got its own like great compounds, but they are very different. Otherwise, we'd be having a different discussion with this particular formula. But we also have things like tart cherry, hawthorn berry, which is really interesting. It's classically used in Chinese medicine, not only for helping to find things like relaxation and that sort of deal, but also it really does it through supporting digestion, and in particular, supporting the digestion of protein, which is interesting. And so the way that we approach sleep is not to just sedate you, or I should say sleep. The way we approach just kind of rest in general isn't through sedation. It's to build and nourish that process, because we look at sleep as something you build into and is meant to be its own rhythm, right? We have our own rhythms as we sleep through the night. And so we don't want to squash any of that. Matter of fact, we really want to build a strong response into rest and restoration. And so we'll go through things like digestion and antioxidants. We're looking at things like L-theanine to kind of unlock different responses and that sort of thing. So wind down's cool for that. I really like it. And to dig in a little bit more, here's some of the discussion, or here's some of the bits and pieces about some of my favorite ingredients in wind down. And so we've got L-theanine, which I mentioned. Helps support a natural relaxation response. It's one of the reasons why you see people kind of really lean into green teas and whatnot. Just the advantage is we take the L-theanine without the caffeine that can often be found in green tea. I mean, it's great, but it's just not going to help you sleep if we start putting the actual caffeine in wind down. So that's why we just take the part that we needed. And that's that science kind of guiding the way that the sensibility that we used. California poppy is fantastic. It's gentle. It's got these really fantastic compounds, these alkaloids that you'll hear a lot about, that if you want to, you can dig into a little bit more. But the kind of like the punchline is they're all there to just help you find a sense and a feeling and support that area of like peace and calm that we're reaching for at the end of the day. The compounds in California poppy are really, really helpful. And then tart cherry. This one's kind of fun. It, Reading more about this, I was surprised to see just how much it can benefit like our ability to find relaxation and calm. And this can be done through a lot of different ways, but tart cherries in particular are said to go to the heart in Chinese medicine, and that heart is kind of what houses joy and kind of peace. And so it would make sense that something that's loaded with polyphenols and all types of antioxidants and is just all around just a good thing to consume and would go straight to that system in the Chinese medicine sense would also help us and help cue your body that it's things are okay. It's time to disengage that active day and engage that restorative part of your evening. So it's I like the way we put these together quite a bit. Um, Along these lines too, you can kind of really look at now at the way that these are fitting together as like two pieces of a whole. I mean, you can certainly take Blue Burn or Wind Down and keep them separate. That's absolutely okay. But they really do something special when you combine them. And that's something you'll find with a lot of the things that we put together at Apothecary. Like they can stand on their own, no problem, but it really is easy to kind of find a way to stack them, and often you get a better result. Like you often see that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And so when you take like Wind Down and Blueburn and put them together, you'll see that the the effect changes in a very cool way. And so you can build on each other. And so what it might look like is you start your day with Blueburn and let it take you through the day. And then as you get towards your evening, Wind Down comes into play. And it's there to kind of unlock that nice uh, like quiet part of the evening when you're ready to disengage and take a step back from everything you've had to deal with throughout the day. And so, really, the hardest parts often come not in terms of getting through the day, but transitioning from one space to the next space. And so that's also where you can look at like Blueburn and Wind Down as these pivots to help us transition into the beginning and transition into the end. And so they'll fit in different places there. But yeah, you have lots of room to experiment and play. So I went right on through that, and I didn't even stop to ask and see if anybody has any questions. But yeah, before I jump into kind of where this is headed, do you all have questions? Do you have concerns or need some clarification for anything? Please holler if you do.
Yeah, I can also jump in with a quick question for you, Matt, because we get it often about usage, like how you would recommend maybe using Wind Down and Blueburn in your routines, and if you have a specific way that you like to use it that you would recommend.
Yeah, that thank you. Actually, yeah, I got so into like the nuts and bolts. Yeah, I really like I'm one of those people, maybe it's because I have a son. My mornings are like crazy. I actually really focus on the morning and midday. So I actually take it before I have any coffee, anything like that. And you can add it to your coffee, you can add it to a shake. I've done those too. But I just actually really like to experience the herbs. So I like to just taste them on their own. Um, and oh, perfect. And I'll jump in and answer this question in just a second. And so, I kind of ebb and flow because sometimes you just need to make it work for you. But I think I just like the experience of like tasting the herbs and having a minute with it, and letting them do their thing before I start the rest of my day. And so I usually take actually two droppers in the morning because I like a little bit more, and then I'll do it midday as well. And then Wind Down, gosh, especially like on a Friday because it's like movie night for us. It's like perfect because it's just I don't know, it's this cue and it's this space for me that helps me just find like it can tell me to relax, I guess you could say, is the cue that I need for the ritual in my mind. Because sometimes I just need like I need something to help my body find that space. And so Wind Down's a good fit. So, and if you don't mind, I saw a question pop through about hawthorn berry, about contraindications with it. I just want to make sure I don't miss that question. Um, it's a great question. So hawthorn berry is really really good. Generally speaking, so there's generally speaking, hawthorn berry is considered a food in many respects, and so you'll see it used that way. However, when it comes to things like when we're talking about contraindications, usually we're thinking about medications. If I'm on the right page with where you're going with this, if not, stop me and let me know either in the chat or speak up. But in general, medications that always struggle to play well with anybody in terms of other herbs or supplements or medications or things like lithium, tricyclic antidepressants, blood thinners. And so all that means is you, like, I would always recommend this. If you have medications as a part of your routine, if you have any questions that relate to your personal health history, then talk to your doctor because there's so many unique um, unique pieces of your picture that need to be looked at just for you. I mean, this is what I would do for my patients. And what I'd say is like, bring me what you're taking. Let's just take a look at all of it to make sure it's the right fit for you. But yeah, Hawthorn, it's one of these things that can definitely change the way that certain medications can be metabolized in some cases if you already have things that are really, really keeping the liver busy or whatnot. And so it's not inherently like um, stronger or more problematic than anything else. I mean, honestly, the most challenging thing to take when it comes to food is grapefruit. Grapefruit's the one that really doesn't play with medications well because it alters the way our liver metabolizes things and can speed it up actually quite a bit. So yeah, if you have distinct questions, this is why I always tell people. Take the bottle, bring it right into your healthcare provider, and be like, "Is there anything here?" Or your pharmacist or pharmacotherapist, whoever it is that you see, whoever your personal expert is, and be like, is there anything in here that I should know about that might not play well with my picture? Because there are so many variables that you're worth having a little extra info in your pocket and making sure that it's the right fit for you. So hopefully that helps a bit. Um, any other questions? Oh yeah, perfect. And hopefully the I hope we were trying something a little different this time too. I hope the ideas that we've introduced with yin and yang and kind of the East Asian medical sensibilities are useful and helpful to you as you see kind of how you can build your schedule and the way that you use apothecary products and just the way you look at your day as well. Because we really lean into the science so much, and I love it. It's such a core love of mine. But um, this when we talk about Chinese medicine compo, it rounds out the picture quite a bit and can really add context to what we're doing and why. Oh, any other questions? All right, then maybe I'll pass it. Oh, that sorry. Am I taking Power Trip now too? Yes. So I'm a little biased. This one's sort of my baby, and so I really like Power Trip because it works differently than Blueburn. Um, if and this is a great question. If you yeah, thank you. Like if you could look at it as and we built them separately on purpose, like they really are different formulas. So Blueburn is all about yeah, dude, if 2 under 4, good lord. Okay, yeah, you work really hard. Sorry, I see that. I feel you. I have one, and that's no, it's crazy. um yeah, so Blueburn is like, the way I've really kind of looked at it is Power Trip is all about trying to really build what, like, energy at like every core level. So we're really trying to build the mechanism that produces and allows you to adapt in terms of energy production with Power Trip, Blueberry like smooths the way because there's two pieces. You could you need to build the energy, but you also need to like let it flow. And the way I think about it is it's sort of like friction, right? Like if we have lots of like push, lots of energy in the tank, I mean that's great. But if it can't kind of like flow properly, you get that heat and you get that friction. And so Blueburn kind of like smooths the landscape in a very cool way and helps with that response because like stress makes everything want to like tighten up and not flow. And you can almost like feel it just kind of thinking about it, right? Yeah, it's but Power Trip is like going to fuel that gas tank. And so you need both. You need something that's going to really like pick you up. You need something that's going to let it flow. But then it's why you need something like lying down at the end of the day to really find your ground after that. But yeah, Thank you for asking. And they do serve different purposes because sometimes people need both Blue Burn and Power Trip. Sometimes it's like, Power Trip hit the nose or nail on the head for me. Blue Burn has been hitting the nail on the head for me. Like I don't have an energy thing. I just need things to flow for me to get through the day. And so you can kind of pick and choose like what fits best for you, and you can play with it. I mean, that's the cool part about it is our stuff is meant to be like made yours. Like we make them for you, and so you can really build your own routine and your own ritual with these. But yeah, I take a lot of herbs, if you couldn't tell, especially as I experiment. And Power Trip and Blue Burn and Wind Down are steadies in my rotation right now. And I really, it helps a lot, especially as a, we stay busy here. I still see some patients, and as a dad, I mean, everybody's got a million things that are pulling him in 100 different directions at all times in this world. So I'll take what I can get to help manage my day. And if something comes up later, by the way, if you're like, oh my God, okay, I should ask that, please reach out. Like I really do respond. Sometimes I'm a little slow, bear with me, but I really do respond when people send comments or questions or things that are more technical in nature. I will absolutely respond, and I work with such an amazing team here that help get those things to me. Thanks to, gosh, Kate and Claire and Libby and Danielle, and I mean just everybody. Like we will do our best to get you what you need. So, so just say so.